Welcome. Before we begin, just a couple things. Normal with any exercise, if you feel pain you think where you shouldn't, just stop. Anything in like obviously neck or lower back, it's you know a good indication that yeah something is not going right or accessory muscles are not being used right or whatever. It's like yeah, it's no need to hurt yourself. Other thing is with a lot of these exercises, you're probably familiar with this already. Um, just the way the shoulder rotates on an inward rotation, you have a restricted because of like the ball and socket joint as to how far you can rotate. So for pretty much all our exercises, you want to externally rotate the shoulder out of that, which this could be like thumb out or armpit facing away from or elbow pit facing away from you. And that would allow for obviously the full extension. Whereas when you're internal, you can do this yourself, you'll feel the resistance. That's just pretty much it, just that to be aware of. Just go through a simple warm up and I'll show you a few different things. I was kind of like just to do a nice gentle jog in place. If you want, you can do like elevated knees and like kind of pointed feet and like a prancing pony. Let's get the body warmed up and ready for a little exercise. Maybe a few jumping jacks. Loosen up the shoulders a little. I like to kind of, we'll just start with like shoulder rolls, then go to arm rolls or elbow rolls, and then arm rolls. Kind of like to do these is while you're doing your shoulder roll, you can kind of lean to one side. We'll go backwards first. The key is to try to get full rotation of the scapula if you can. Just nice and controlled. Try to go all the way around, full range of motion. Get nice and loosened up. Then with the elbow. Again, just focusing on full range of motion, forward, up, back, down. And then with the arm. Kind of a scoop up. If you're like me, there's a lot of creaking and popping in the beginning that eventually goes away. And other direction. Go forward. And elbows. And arms. This time kind of scoop up from the back and then push down in the front. Maybe a couple of standing cat cows. These, you kind of take your arms, first will like inward rotate, push back, kind of sit in, and then you come to the front where you arch your back over and then you externally rotate as you go. Sort of like this, and then you go up and back. Just kind of going in between these two motions here, between the rotations and the spinal contractions. Really helps loosen up a little bit. Another good one for sort of thoracic is kind of get like a sumo squat going. Push the knees out a little and just settle in. And then just slowly twist to one side. Only as far as you feel comfortable. And other side. I guess to be thorough, if you have good balance, you can do all at once. I do kind of wrist and ankle rolls. Just kind of loosen all the joints up while we're at it. Balance is often tricky. I found the more warmed up I am, the better I am at it. If I just jump straight into balance from the beginning, I fall over a bit. And change sides. You should put arms overhead this time. I'm still rolling my wrist though. And just like when we did the arms and shoulders, just try to get a full range of motion in the wrists and the ankles. And reverse. Oh yeah. There's one called the bathroom ninja. Take it down a little lower. For this one, the bathroom ninja. You're stepping over the toilet. You're going under the sink. You're delivering your package. Package delivered. Shifty eyes is part of the move. You exit the same way, under the sink. Over the toilet. Again. Over the toilet. Under the sink. Deliver shifty eyes. Mission accomplished.
I made a little list here. So, all right. If you haven't seen it, one of my favorite stretches is the pigeon. Basically, you just take one leg out at 90 and the other will go out behind you. This will help relax the hip and like hamstrings and quads too. I mean, there's lots of different variations you can do, like just sitting up and kind of settling into it. Try to make sure you're even between both hips, not just leaning one side to the other. I mean, keep your hands down if you need. And as you settle in a bit, it feels really good just to kind of fold forward. And you can feel the stretch all the way to the hamstring or wherever's tight. This is also really good for sciatica. I used to have those sharp shooting pains, sometimes going down to my ankle. This will really loosen up the tension in the joint that like pinches it. I've also found this is very helpful for the lower back as well. Similar to hyperextensions, you can go to cactus arms and do pigeon workshops, just like this. And this does effectively work as a hyperextension. I do this at work every day because my lower back is always getting tight. And yeah, I'm feeling this a lot in my hamstring too. That gets tight. I normally just do about 10 of those on either side. We'll switch to the other side just to even it out. I mean, you can keep your leg down a little if you're pretty tight. If you're loose, the farther up you push your leg, the more you're going to feel it. Generally, just kind of settling in. Oh yeah. Yeah, I enjoy this. This is a nice passive stretch. While you're sitting there, you can do a little rock side to side, settle your hips all the way in toward the ground. Just really helps release, a lot of those tight leg hip muscles. Stretches like this, you can stay in as long as you want. Most people will hold for at least 30 seconds or maybe a minute. I mean, you can go longer if you want. The longer you stay in, if you do a gentle rocking and settle in, you just generally feel better. And maybe I'll do 5 of these pigeon workshops just to balance out. One I was talking about the traction, where you can essentially like stretch your spine a little. One that's another one I use every day at work is called the melting heart. Essentially, just keep your hips like at 90 degrees and put your arms out. Shoulders are externally rotated. And you just reach as far as you can, shoulders up towards your ears, and stretch out while slowly sinking down. Think of somebody pushing behind your shoulder blades towards the ground. If your face is on the ground, you can look towards your hands and kind of angle your throat toward the ground. Just try to make sure your arms are straight so it's not like your elbow is on the ground. Palms should be facing the ground, even though our shoulders are rotated. So you're trying to face your arm or elbow pits up toward the sky while your palms are on the ground, and continue to shrug your shoulders up toward the ears. And just kind of work in between these movements. The shoulders up to the ears, the pulling with the arms, pulling in the opposite direction with the hips, trying to stretch the spine out while at the same time kind of pushing down like with the sternum towards the ground. Remember, most of the flexion is going to be toward the upper thoracic neck or lower back in this direction. When I have a really tight back, I can actually feel the vertebrae kind of almost popping back into place. Sometimes it's almost a little unnerving, but I guess that's normal. So then it just feels great afterwards. Because I feel locked up, and after a couple of almost scary pops, it's feel good. And again, you know, you can hold as long as you want. This is going to be a big one. You'll feel in your shoulders as well, not just your upper back. You just gently come out of that whenever you're ready. I like to counter that with a few just regular cat cows. And go from as big a round as you can to a nice steep arch, pushing through the shoulders as much as you can, pushing the ground away. Just a few of these. There's a couple of different options of things you can do. Might show better in this side. I like to, one way is you pretend like you're inside a barrel and you're trying to hit the edges of the barrel with your body. Just be like top, side, arch down for the bottom, other side, round up for the top. Not sure which side shows it better, so I'll do it both ways. Going up to the side, down to the other side. Ideally, your hands are underneath your shoulders the whole time. And like pretty much everything, just make sure your elbow pits are facing like your index fingers. So they're still always in the external rotation kind of thing. And you know, then you just reverse, go around the barrel the other way. It's just a different range of motion. Another one that's kind of fun is think of like the hips and the shoulders as a square and try to hit every point sequentially going in a circle like a disco kitty. So you get, as you go down on one side, you go up on the other and just kind of flow through. Yeah, I don't know if it shows any better this way. And reverse. normally at this point, my upper back is feeling pretty good. Legs have been a little bit released through the pigeon and whatnot. And I don't know if you have the same problem I do, but I'll show you anyway. I just, while you're sitting there, you can just turn your wrists upside down. You can put them closer to your knees if, you know, they're not hurting much, or if you're not feeling anything, you can keep going farther away and just, while keeping your wrists as flat as you can in your hands, just gently ease back. If it gets too painful, you can, like I said, just move it closer to your knees. And once you hit a good point where you're starting to feel it, I like to do little claw hands. This is really good on the wrists. I used to have like pretty serious tendonitis, and this has helped a lot. That and the understanding that most people only flex their wrists in one direction, like a flexion and not an extension. So most people will go like this, but they don't focus so much on the extension, especially like outward and whatnot. So you're only like really working one side of the forearm when you do that. So I mean, like half the muscles. Then you can flip your hands over and kind of do the same thing, except once you hit a point, you can slowly peel them up. Making sure you do it both directions. Stretches like everything evenly, and it substantially helps. My fingers aren't numb anymore. I don't have any sharp shooting pains really. I mean, I still don't use proper technique a lot, so I have to do this like a couple times every day, but definitely helpful. Another one that's good for traction is you kind of just lay down, feet straight, arms straight. Now, just starting with one side, we'll say the left side, I guess. Take your leg and arm just on that side and reach as far as you can. And just keep reaching, and then hold that. And then reach with the other side. You're reaching fingertips away from toes, toes away from fingertips. Now hold that side and reach the other side long again. Essentially think that like you're on a rack and people are pulling you. I'm also pointing my toes, which you can't see. So, and just continue going back and forth between both sides, stretching yourself farther than you think you can. Should be feel like you get just a tiny fraction of an inch further each time. And check my list. Oh yeah, I did skip one I was going to do earlier. For mobility drills, just another for loosening up. Bear crawls. It's essentially, it looks kind of like a down dog, except it's down dog is more like this. Bear crawls, you want to be up a little bit more, your butt really high in the air. And for these, you kind of tread through your hands up and down. You wiggle a little bit side to side, and same with your feet when you come down. Just kind of peel them up, push them down, and just kind of do little funny walks. Sort of like a bear. Would go forward and then go in reverse. Generally would do a few of these. Just would help, you know, release. One thing you probably can't see from that direction is while you're going, you want to kind of sway side to side a little bit. I don't have much room to do this. Like kind of working through the hip joints, rolling through the shoulder joints. Try it this way too. Anyway, one of those should show pretty good. And the cactus stretch. This is good for the pecs, also the shoulders. Most people would just do it in flat position, cactus arms, like a T. And you do one side at a time. Just kind of put one arm down. Make sure you're at a 90-degree angle with your arm, like this. Shoulder all the way on the ground. Elbow, hand flat. Your other arm, like I said, you could put kind of like this. I'll show it from this angle though. And then just slowly roll into it. Depending on where you're at, you'll feel it in different places. Only push as hard as you feel comfortable. It can get to be a pretty intense stretch sometimes. But this one is really good for releasing some like the upper arm, shoulder, pec muscles and whatnot. And just remember when you roll, try to roll evenly from like the lower body so it's not all going into the lower back. That's why I kind of lift my leg up. During any of these times, you do feel the lower back. Generally, if you like squeeze your glutes or your abs, you can compensate for a lot of that. For me, I hardly ever feel it on this stretch, just by making sure my hips are stacked. If you're not feeling it enough, you can push in, or you could take your hand and you can do like a 10-second press, like a active stretch, or just resist the stretch, like push your hand into the ground, your hand and your elbow while you're stretching, and make it a little more intense. There's always ways to amplify it. I mean, it may be more than enough, just like as it is. And like most stretches, if you do like a good 30 seconds of this, that's great. Switch to the other side. It's nice and carefully come out. Yeah, I found with tight shoulders and whatnot, this is one of the better ones. You can also do this on the wall. I'll demonstrate that in a minute. This is the most common way people do it, is either, let's come out of that, with a cactus arm, or you can do it with a straight arm. One thing I've not seen too many people do is you can do it in like 3 different positions as well. Like you can start up at kind of a 45-degree angle up, and then lean over. Like that. Head down to the regular 90-degree angle, just with a straight arm instead. This just kind of hits at a slightly different angle than the cactus would. You can move it down to the lower 45-degree angle as well. And another thing you can do is while you're at the 90-degree angle straight, you can put your palm up. And this should enable you to go actually quite a bit deeper. At least for me, I can roll over a bit more when I do it with the palm up and the palm down. I like to put my other arm back when I do this one. I can just really feel the stretch a bit more in the upper back. I know I didn't do it very long on each side, but I suppose it should balance out and do the other side anyway. Start the upper 45. This is one I don't do very often, and I tend to balance my stretches on what's bothering me at the time, because I just do mine during 15-minute breaks at work. There's only so much you can do, obviously. Come down to 90 degrees. And do that bottom 45. And palm up at 90. Put my other arm up and deepen the stretch a bit. Anyway, that's a fair sampler of that. Let's see. I guess I can do it from this angle. If you take your arm, like you can do it with the straight arms as well, and just pretty much put your pec around shoulder right against the wall. Try to keep your arm, in line with your shoulder, like your elbow, and then slowly peel back, turn away from the wall with the rest of your body, just leaving that pec facing the wall and kind of pushing into it. And this will label you do basically a standing version of that. And again, yeah, if you want to, you can do the same thing, I'll show you another exercise. It's really a pain in the butt. Yeah, it should work. You want to sit as flat against the wall as you can, like from your butt to your shoulders, even your head if you can. So try to get kind of like plank straight against the wall. I can't really do this one so well, but I'll give you an idea. Kind of. And you get your little chicken wings. See, even down here, I have trouble with it. In the ideal situation, if you're really good, you can keep your elbow and the back of your hand like straight on the wall the whole time. And it's easier down here. And then while you're sitting straight against the wall with your arms straight against the wall, you slowly lift your arms and try to maintain contact, which probably won't happen, with the wall the whole time while keeping the rest of your body straight on the wall. You can see how far off the wall I am. This is a tough one. And yeah, you could do this a few times. This again is just something that will help with the mobility. It's amazingly difficult. Looks like it would be so easy. Yeah. Anyway, that's a good one. I'm not sure if it's gone over like lacrosse balls and roller and whatnot. You take 2 lacrosse balls, put them in a sock. You can have a makeshift peanut if you don't really feel like buying one. Feeling down your vertebrae to get when you get to like C7 around T1, that's generally where you can feel right about where the traps are. You'll feel like generally the biggest protuberance there. You'd want to start like 1 or 2 below there, ideally like around maybe T2, something like that. You don't really want to do this on the cervical. So when you get to that position, you just kind of palpate it out. Put the peanut to either side of the spine. And you can slowly roll back and forth. Maybe just laying on a little is good pressure. Or you can even raise yourself up and put a lot of pressure if you want. You could do at least 20, 30 seconds in each spot and slowly walk down to the next vertebrae. This will help break up the fascia a little bit. If you're not familiar with that, the fascia is basically, it covers the whole body. And most people that don't work it, it's really tight. It's like, think if your body was warmed up and you had more movement and stuff, and then you put on a piece of tight clothing, it's going to restrict your movements. And this is essentially what the fascia does. But if you break it down, doing stuff like this, that's kind of what the kinesiology or whatever you pronounce it is kind of based on that. Will allow much more flexibility and mobility. A lot of people that can't flex and everything else is largely in part due to just really tight fascia. But yeah, you can walk it down through the shoulder blades all the way at least to the bottom of thoracic. Similar to the cervical, you don't want it in the lumbar. So, I mean, you can kind of get an idea where your ribs end. If you're not sure, just stop 1 or 2 shy. I mean, there's multiple different ways to roll out and do other things, but that one directly walks down both sides of the thoracic spine and essentially kind of like an easy deep tissue massage. So I like that. There's actually a passive one you can do with a roller. Or it doesn't even have to be a roller. Maybe to start out, something smaller or a towel will even work. I like to go just right below the shoulder blades. Just wherever you're at. Well, for me, this is not that much, so I'll demonstrate on this, but yeah, just go right below the shoulder blades. Basically just lean back, put your arms out and relax. And you just kind of hang out for, I do this for about 2 to 3 minutes at a time. This is helps with the flexibility in the arch and whatnot. Just kind of helps your back get used to being a position like an over exaggerated arch, especially if you don't do any flexibility. It's pretty useful. Just kind of, you just melt into it. The sensations will gradually deepen. And the nice thing about a roller is if you can always roll yourself out at the end. I think that's about all I had on my list. That gives you a few different options of things. So hopefully this has been helpful. Enjoy.